On today's video, we are going to do 1 bazillion wild furniture flips. Let's go. For the first flip, this is the before that we are working with. It was a real rustic looking, worn down handmade bench that somebody had thrown out in their garbage pile. So of course I picked it up and flipped it into something really awesome. The first thing I needed to do was give it a nice sanding just to make sure that the surface was ready for a new coat of paint. Wait until you see this bright and wild color scheme I'm going for with this flip. The wild color that I chose for this is called the Bright Side. It is that yellow color on top of that paper, and it is such a fitting name for this flip because we're looking on the bright side here. It may have looked a little iffy to begin with. It may have been thrown out in the trash, but we're going to look on the bright side and we're going to make this flip into a wild yet absolutely beautiful transformation. Now that the paint's done, I'm going to prep some fabric to do an upholstered seat on this bench. You would not normally expect a bench like this, that's kind of ranch style, rustic looking, to have an upholstered seat, but that's what's going to make this piece extra wild. I doubled up the 1-inch foam padding and then put some quilt batting over top of that to smooth it all out. I used a hand-powered staple gun to attach on the quilt batting and the fabric at the same time. A fun design is always all about the details, and the details on this piece are what is going to make it extra wild and also super beautiful and custom. I got these little pom-poms from Amazon, and I just used some fabric hot glue and attached that pom-pom trim to the edge of the upholstered part of the bench. Not only does this give it a finished look, but it really makes it have its own character and look like something that people are going to ask, wow, where did you get that from? Or they're going to say, wow, that's crazy. You let me know in the comments, what do you think of this design? Looking back at what we started with, you would never guess that this is the same bench. And when you saw it to begin with, you would have never thought that this is the design choice I would have gone with. Going bright yellow, the bright side, adding a beautiful floral upholstered seat, and then adding the decorative trim with the beautiful yellow pom-poms. Let me know, do you love it or hate it down in the comments below. But let's move on to our second wild flip. And let me tell you, this one is not going to disappoint. It is so funny going back and looking at all the different flips that I have done and just learning from every single one of them as I was going. I am a person that learns from just trying it and failing, and this is one of those that you may consider a fail, but you also might love it. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what you think in the end. But we're going to go with a mermaid or maybe even like a Princess Jasmine kind of theme on this one. It sounds wild. It is wild. And you're really going to enjoy at least watching this process because you're not going to recognize this piece when I'm done with it. When I first released this video years ago, so many of you went after me in the comment section for covering up that curvy detail that's on the drawer. You all said I should have left it and that you love that detail, but I don't know, even watching it now, I still feel like it was the right decision to get rid of that. I just feel like that detail didn't go well with like that dental molding on the top that it has. It just seemed like this piece was not designed well. Like they just threw a bunch of weird random design choices in on it and stained it all one color, and that was that. But at the same time, like, who am I to talk? Wait till you see what I'm about to do to this piece. After some light sanding on the entire piece, I then primed it with a white primer to make sure that the paint color was going to be bright and vibrant. Wait until you see the color I chose. I don't remember the name of this color, but it is a very bright turquoise, and I think it's such a pretty color, and I wish I was brave enough to decorate with colors like this in my home, but I feel like it would just be too jarring to look at every single day. I don't know, maybe I would think differently now, but I am going to do the entire piece with some clear wax before going over with some aging antiquing wax, brown wax, on here as well. I want to draw out all the details that I left in the piece that I liked, like this kind of dental molding looking area, and then I just wipe back the excess until I get it to a color that I like. This was done so many years ago, and it was during the time where everybody was doing really heavily distressed, super colorful, wild designs, and so that's why I was like, I'm gonna go all out on this piece. I put on some really affordable handles that I got off Amazon, and this is how it turned out. You would definitely not guess that it's the same piece we started with, right? What do you think of this design? Is this too wild, or is this beautiful? I don't know. I feel like it looks beautiful, but obviously I'm biased since I'm the one who created it. But I can't wait to hear what you guys think of it in the comments. Let me know. Moving on to the next project. This is actually one of my all-time favorite makeovers that I did. It is actually my wildest makeover, I think, and you're truly not gonna believe the color scheme that went on this and the design that went into it, because nobody could have thought of this except the person that I made it for. Back then, when I was doing these furniture flips, my husband and I would flip furniture custom for young adults that were aging out of foster care, and I would ask them oftentimes like to give me a design that they wanted to have on it, and I would just make it exactly how they wanted it. And this was one of the ones that I was just blown away with because of the color choices that the young woman wanted on it. She wanted this light pink color, white, and a super like bright fiery orange color. Those were her favorite colors. And I have never to this day, even since then, met somebody who loves those colors, and I thought that was so cool and unique that she liked those specific colors. And I also loved that she knew exactly what she wanted. She sent me some pictures on Pinterest, and she had really a creative sense of style that I've never seen before. So we're gonna do something crazy on here. Keep watching to see exactly how I pull off this design, but it's wild. This is literally the most wild flip I've ever done. If you haven't guessed it by now, I am doing a custom like checkerboard or gingham print on here using 3 colors. I have a opaque-ish pink, I have a more see-through pink, and then I have that super fiery orange color that you're about to see go on. This is a design I had never done before, never practiced. I just was winging it and hoping that it turned out really well, and I had just like these colors planned in my head and just put it on the canvas, I guess, and it worked out so well. I also brought that super bright orange color into the details of the front of the dresser. And tell me, do you get a Brady Bunch vibe from this dresser when I'm done with it? Because when I finished with it, I was like, wow, this looks so vintage Brady Bunch to me. To bring a pop of white to the front, I spray painted all of its original hardware in a white color. And now it's about time to reveal this wild design. Literally my most wild flip I've ever done. Look at the colors on this piece. It was a work of heart, and I was over the moon ecstatic to make this custom piece for somebody that I knew was going to fully deserve it and appreciate it. And I don't know where it is now. It's been so many years. Maybe she still has it, maybe she doesn't, I don't know. But either way, this is one of my top all-time favorite wild flips I've ever done. It's definitely not my style, but it doesn't mean I didn't have a blast making it. And this next piece that I did, is actually my least favorite flip I've ever done. I would say, I would go as far as to say that I absolutely hated this flip when I was finished with it. I was kind of playing around with the idea of doing like maximalist, like just way too many details, just see how far I could really take it with just upcycling random things onto a piece of furniture. And this was just something that I found in the trash, and it was not real wood. Like, I really had nothing to lose here by doing crazy stuff on this flip. And I'm really excited to see what you all think of what I did to it in the comment section, because I'm sure that your responses to this design are going to be quite hilarious, because I truly think it is hideous when I'm finished with it. But at the same time, it's like you can't stop watching, because it just keeps getting uglier and uglier. And I feel like it's like watching a train wreck in real time, because it was such an ugly flip. And yeah, here we go. Keep watching, see how bad it gets. I used some flat white spray paint as a primer because I wanted to try out fluorescent pink spray paint. I just thought it'd be fun to try and experiment with a fluorescent color. Fluorescent colors are not like regular colors. They're very translucent. And so you have to do a lot of coats, and it's like a process. You can't just paint it on like a regular color. And that's why it was so fun to play around with and learn from, just because I had never worked with actual fluorescent colors. I've used bright colors, but fluorescent is something else. Like, look at how it's literally glowing. It looks radioactive at this point. I also wanted to play around with some decoupaging. So I took some napkins that were in a color scheme I thought would go well with this, and I was kind of leaning more towards like a Florida vibe, like beachy Florida vibe, and I just Mod Podged on those napkins to the top. I would say right here is the moment where I started thinking, wow, I really hate this. It looks so bad. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just experimenting, and that's okay. And it's really a good thing to do, to experiment on something that it was free, got it from the trash, and it's not real wood, it's not antique. Like, I had nothing to lose here. I could just mess around on this piece and just see how far I could take things. I guess. I don't know how else to explain my thought process on this. I was literally just experimenting, and even though I knew I was already hating it, I thought, well, let's just see what else I can do to this. So I decided that I was going to glue on all these broken jewelry pieces on here and just see how that would look, because I've never tried that before. I've seen the broken costume jewelry used to make like little Christmas trees and things like that, and I was like, I wonder if I could do like a summer version of something cool like that. So I glued and hot glued on all these different random things, and I thought it would kind of look beachy too, like the mermaid who's collecting all the things, you know. But it turned out just super ugly. I hated it. It looked terrible, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it in the comments. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, I thought, let me see if maybe I just like do a dusting of gold all over this piece, if it kind of tones down the things that I hate about it. But no, it didn't. It just highlighted how ugly everything was in an even uglier way. And if you are watching this and you do like it, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with you liking this, but for me, I just thought that it was ugly. It's not my style, wasn't for me. But if you look at this and you're like, wow, I love that, I think that's really cool, then I'm glad. Like, that makes me happy to know that somebody was liking this, because all these different elements are like pretty on their own. It's just, I feel like they all didn't go well together. It didn't turn out cohesive like I wanted it to. It literally just looked like I was experimenting and putting random things onto a table. I put a clear coat on everything to make sure it was nice and durable. I don't even remember who bought this or who I donated it to. I can't remember for the life of me where this table ended up, but I hope it's happy wherever it is now. Oh my gosh, I can't even look at this. It's so bad. Oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Look at it. Oh, and I did like I don't even know. I just like dripped the gold on there. Oh, hopefully this next flip is so much better. in your opinion than the last one. It's definitely a lot better in my opinion, but it is still quite a wild flip. So I got this vintage couch from somebody who was donating it to my cause of furnishing homes for kids aging out of foster care. It was a really cool couch, and at the time Restoration Hardware was designing couches like these and selling them for thousands of dollars, and they were doing like modern takes on them. And so I decided to do my own modern take on this couch, and I painted all of the wood trim in a super high gloss enamel black. I staged it with some black and white pillows to help draw in that black and make it look more like a high-end design at that time. You were probably watching this now and thinking, oh my gosh, that's hideous. But for some reason at that time, this was super trending, even with high-end home decor places like Restoration Hardware. But I donated this and the pillows to somebody who needed it, and hopefully they loved it and it helps their house feel more like a home. What do you think of this design? Do you like how this one turned out? I still think it's pretty neat. If anything, it would look really cool in like a Gothic style home as well. But let's move on to the next wild flip. This little wooden desk had seen some better days. I love that it was owned by somebody who loved to paint. That makes me really happy, and I do not at all mind fixing it up. But this is quite a wild flip. I'm going to choose a color that I had not used yet before, and it needed just a little bit of repairs here and there. The color that I went with is called Hey Sailor by DIY Paint, and this was where my love affair with navy blue all started. I really love a good two-tone color with stain combination for furniture, so I sanded off all the paint on the top and went with a stain here instead. What a beautiful rich tone this turned out to be. I added some affordable rustic looking handles on here that I got from Amazon. They are super cheap. They're like less than $1 a piece. And I am actually shocked with the change in color that this turned out to be. When you look at the paint when it's still in the can and before you put the clear coat on, it looked much darker. And instead it turned into this really vibrant colored blue that I thought paired really well with that lemon wallpaper that I put into the drawers. I think this is quite a pop of color and a wild flip if you ask me, because I know it would definitely be hard for me to put something this bright and colorful into my home, but surprisingly enough, this is trending now, although it was not trending back then. So how interesting how things change and how things come back in style. The next one that I'm going to show you is this like wooden toy box. This was a fun, wild, colorful flip as well. Do you remember that turquoise color that I showed you earlier on the nightstand? Well, I'm going to use what was left of it on this toy box and make a beachy, fun, wild, pop of color rolling coffee table. I ended up using up all of that paint for the exterior of the coffee table toy box and decided to use a different leftover paint color on the inside. For the rolling part, I used some leftover scrap wood that I had to create some supports that I'm going to screw on the wheels to. can find sets of wheels like these on Amazon as well as your local hardware store. From dirty and drab to cute and fabulous, I think that this colorful flip is just as wild as my shoes and socks in this video. I think it looks great. It's beachy, it's so fun, and I love that the wheels add an element that make it much more useful. This piece went to a young mom who was aging out of foster care, so it's great to store anything that you need to help take care of those little ones or keep the house decluttered. Now let's keep going to the next flip. This table obviously has seen better days. I think I got this one for free. I can't remember, but it was ugly. Honestly, I think it looked terrible in its current condition. And I just so happened to find a piece of marble tile that was the perfect size to go on top of this table. And I thought, why not go really colorful Grand Millennial with this table? We really had nothing to lose. Like, it was already really ugly to begin with, so let's just run with it and do something wild. You're not going to believe the color that I picked for this piece. This spring green, as a color that I like to call Kelly green actually, is the color I chose for this side table. I think it gives it so much more character. It really defines it with its own style, and instead of looking boring and outdated, it gives it this beautiful presence that makes you actually look at it for the great parts that it does have, and it gave it a really high design look without a ton of work. I can't believe that there was a perfect piece of tile that fit the top of this to create a beautiful marble look. Now it's fun and funky and even more durable than it was before. And I think that this wild look turned out really good. I know some of these wild looks I've done in the past, I ended up not liking how they turned out, but I really do like this one. So let me know what you think. Do you love it or hate this one? For the next flip, we are going in a completely different direction. This was a little dough box style side table, probably from the 70s. It had lots of names and words scratched into it. It's seen better days, but it's obviously been well loved. Still had some yucky trash inside it. That's fine. I'm super used to that. But we're going in a totally different direction with color choice on this piece. And this was actually the first time I had ever done this color before. I obviously wanted to choose something that was going to go with that primitive design that it had on it, and I thought, why not a kind of deeper barn red? I know it's named like claret wine, and yes, it is kind of a wine red, but when used in this way, it makes it look more like a primitive old American style red, like a barn red. And of course, I love that two-toned paint and wood finish, so I'm going to do that on the top with a beautiful stain. I went with early American for my stain color because of course that goes with that primitive style that I was looking for. I think this one turned out fun and funky and a little bit wild. I definitely went out of my comfort zone on this one with such a bright, vibrant red color. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. If you thought I was done with that red color after the last flip, then you are wrong, because I am going to use that same exact color again, but in a completely modern way for this desk flip. This desk flip was another custom piece for somebody aging out of foster care, and I did it in their favorite colors. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to see this wild modern transformation. Since this desk is made of a laminate on top of a plywood, I could not sand down or refinish that messed up wood top that it had. So instead, I got some durable contact paper off of Amazon, of course, and I put this on top of the desk to create a brand new surface, as if I did a whole new laminate top on there, and it was really durable and worked extremely well, giving this desk a brand new look without breaking the bank or really even needing any power tools. The brand new modern hardware makes this desk have a completely different look. You would not even believe this is the same piece. What a wild transformation. What do you think of this one? I just had to add an extra pop of wow inside the drawers, of course. If you love Harry Potter as much as I love Harry Potter, then you are going to absolutely love this flip. This is something I could totally see in the Sirius Black residence, and you're gonna love the color choice that I go with this, as well as the fun techniques that I use to make this really a wild flip. This table had obviously seen some better days, but you're gonna be really happy with how it ends. After a lot of prep work, sanding, and cleaning this piece off, I'm going to be painting it with the color Bohemian Blue by DIY Paint. It is a really deep teal color, and what is so fun about DIY paints is that you kind of don't really know what color it's going to turn out until you put the clear coat on. You get a good idea of what it will look like when the paint is wet, but it's always still just a little bit of a surprise in the end once you get that clear coat on. It had a really thick layer of some polyurethane on the top, so I used my heat gun to remove that before sanding it all down back to bare wood. I used red mahogany stain because that would be the closest to the original, plus I think it would really go well with that whole Harry Potter vibe that I'm trying to go for. To create more of those spooky Harry Potter vibes, I'm going to antique this entire piece with some dark wax. This piece turned out so stunning. So if you have been waiting for somebody to tell you that it is totally okay for you to do things in your home that are a little bit on the wild side, then this is your hint. Do what you want to do in your home. Make your home cool, make it fun, and do things a little bit wild if that is what makes you happy. For this next wild flip, happy is definitely the key word. I did this piece custom for somebody. She actually sent me a picture on Pinterest of exactly how she wanted the desk to look. It was a bright yellow desk with polka dots painted on the sides of each of the drawers in black and white. So I already knew exactly what to do for this piece. I just had to figure out how to make this piece look like the inspiration piece that she sent me. So we did lots of work to repair this and did a wild paint job on it. You're not going to want to miss how this turns out. To match the inspiration picture that she sent me, I bought a color called Extreme Yellow. I'm not even joking, that's what it was called. It is by Behr, and it was exactly like the one in the picture. It's a bit like a pencil yellow or a school bus yellow, and I think it looks exactly like the inspiration one. I wish I still had that picture to show you the inspiration, but I don't know where it went. It's been so many years since I've done this flip. To recreate the black and white polka dots on the sides, I hand painted the white paint on and then used this little sponge brush to add the polka dots, and it looked exactly like the inspiration picture. I also distressed the entire piece because I feel like that just made everything look a little bit better, and I thought it would just age better that way. It turned out so fun, and I love how I turned all these knobs into more black polka dots to go with that theme that we did on the sides of the drawers. What do you think of this one? I feel like this has such teacher vibes. It was so much fun to make. The next flip I'm going to do is this antique dresser that was pretty trashed. It had a ton of water damage. A lot of the veneer was coming off, and it was like layers and layers of damage on here. It needed a lot of help. There was no way I was going to restore this back to the original in the shape that I was in. And I thought, what a perfect canvas to try something I've never done before. So you're going to get to see me use fabric to make over this dresser. It might be something you hate, or it might be something you can't wait to try on something that you have at home that you thought was maybe too damaged for you to repair. You might rethink that and try out this method. Or you might just say, this is way too wild, it's not for me. Either way, I can't wait to hear what you think of it in the comments. After removing all the damaged veneer and filling in all of the holes and random cutouts that were on here, I'm going to prime these drawer fronts with some white primer because I'm going to be putting fabric on top of them, and I don't want any of that dark color to come through because some of the fabric is quite light in color. So make sure that if you're going with a lighter color fabric or anything with a detailed pattern that you prime the drawers first in white primer. Next, I am going to show you the color scheme here, which is red. So I painted the top red, and I also reapplied stain all over the rest of the body of the dresser that is remaining wood. Whenever you have wood that's just like a little dried out, or you have scratches here and there, it's really easy to revitalize that wood finish by simply going over the wood again in the same color stain and then wiping back the excess. It makes it look almost brand new again. It's really important to prep your fabric by washing and ironing it so that way it does not shrink later on, and you want to make sure that you iron it so it's nice and flat when you go to apply it to your drawer front. I picked a bunch of different vibrant red and white fabrics to create this kind of like, I don't know, I was feeling inspired by the Great British Baking Show, the tent, where they have like all sorts of colorful furniture and things and patterns everywhere. I wanted to recreate that on this dresser, maybe with like a little bit of a carnival vibe to it. And I think I achieved that, but I really can't wait to hear what you think of how this turned out, and also what you would have done, like what color scheme and what fabric patterns would you have chosen to do your own dresser. This is definitely one of the more wild flips that I have done, and I know for sure there are going to be people coming for me in the comment section saying that this is totally hideous and you hate it. But I don't know why. I just think it's so fun and shabby chic, and I love it. I think it was great, and it sold actually to somebody who was reselling it in a antique booth, and so somebody else liked it at least. Let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. This was truly a wild flip. This next flip is a really good example of working with what you have when this is all you got. This was like a 1980s Formica top side table. I love the French shape of it, but it was very cheaply made. Not a lot of it is even real wood, maybe just the legs only. And it had that design that was very outdated carved into the front of that fake wood drawer. And I had received a request from somebody needing a side table for a young man aging out of foster care. His colors that he wanted was silver and yellow, and I had to just do the best I could with what I had because this was the only side table that I had that would suit his needs for his first home. And so I just did what I could and worked within his color scheme, and as they say, I polished a turd. But it turned into a super wild flip that is extremely vibrant, and it's a design that most people would never pick for themselves. But it was a fun experiment to do, and I am sure that it was used a ton by the young man who got it. And I'm sure he was still grateful to have a side table, even if it wasn't like exactly his style. I had fun seeing what would happen with the color scheme he chose on this shape of side table. With the French provincial shape of the table, I thought it would be fun to do a modern take on that French provincial look and add some fun hardware onto here. So I added these details on and created this absolutely wild look. I know that most of you are probably like, wow, that is so ugly. But if there's anybody who actually likes this, let me know in the comment section. I'm truly curious. It was a fun flip. It's like fun for your eyes to look at. This next one is just as wild, if not more wild than this last one. And you know, sometimes I feel like embarrassed by how crazy some of my designs were because I was literally just making stuff up and just like seeing what would happen most of the time. Like, let me see what happens when I put this color with this, or when I work with this style furniture that is super outdated, everybody hates it, and just try and like make it into something different. And this is a perfect example of taking a really outdated, boring style furniture and making it into something completely different. I did magenta on this table, which was my first time using magenta. I love wearing the color magenta, and so it was fun creating a piece of furniture in this color, and boy is this going to turn out super wild. Just stay tuned and see what else I do with this piece. I added a gold peel and stick surface to the top as well as these couch feet to the bottom, and I feel like this gives this such a Barbie house vibe. But this is totally something that would be a piece of Barbie furniture. How fun. And it looks completely different than what we started with, and it's something anybody could do. You don't need any special tools to do this kind of wild makeover. This next flip is also going to go a little metallic. I've never painted an entire piece of furniture in gold until today. I'm going to be trying that out on this dining room bench. It was a super long bench, and I thought it would be really nice to have like at the end of your bed, since it's about the width of a king size bed. I'm telling you, this was a huge bench, but it was definitely used and abused, and I thought it would be a fun candidate for trying something I've never done before. I feel like that's the theme of this whole wild flip video, is me trying stuff I've never done before. So watch and see how I turn this into a golden beauty. While my coat of black primer is drying, I'm going to work on reupholstering the bench part. I didn't want to put in tons of work to remove all that faux leather that was on here before, so I just went over it with some quilt batting as well as a new fabric in a beautiful light blue color. I thought this would look so calming and neutral, and paired with the neutral kind of champagne gold I'm going to do on the base, it turns out absolutely gorgeous. You're going to want to see how this turns out. And what an easy, super beginner friendly DIY that you can do without any need for any special skills or special tools. You just need a staple gun and some good old sweat equity. From boring brown to modern sophisticated beauty, the base painted in gold looks absolutely stunning. I love how this turned out. I think it looks so clean and inviting, and it's so funny that I did this so many years ago when gold is like super popular now. At the time, people would have said I was crazy. But let's move on to the next flip. Another boring brown transformation. This was a very simple bookcase, but it was solid wood and in good condition structurally. I wanted to do something to give it a really custom and fun look. I feel like people who collect tons of books often will be totally okay with a fun, funky bookcase. So I'm going with some vintage colors on here and creating something completely custom and one of a kind using fabric yet again, and just wait until you see the fabric that I use on this piece. It is so beautiful. The funky vintage wheat yellow colored paint looks awesome. I decide I want to go ahead and distress it a little bit before adding this amazing fabric to the backing of this bookcase. What do you think of this wild transformation? My eyes absolutely love staring at that blue in the fabric, and the florals look so awesome. That beautiful vintage yellow color makes everything just even more cheerful. I love this flip, but what do you think of it? Let me know in the comments. What do you think of this wild bookcase flip? Now it's time to move on to a different wild flip. Of course, this is a completely different style. This was another custom piece that I did. It was missing a drawer handle and it had a lot of huge cracks and stains and things in it, and it just wasn't a good candidate for refinishing in a wood tone. And the person that I was refinishing it for wanted to do a custom two-tone look on it anyways, so she picked this really beautiful turquoise color and picked it up and gave it to me, and then I did this makeover on the dresser for her. It's for her guest bedroom, I believe. It's been so long since I've done this one, but it turns out super cute. So check this out, how I transformed this with a bit of a crazy makeover. So what did you think of this makeover? I think this is so cute, and it reminds me so much of the Junk Gypsies here in Texas. They do a really fun bohemian rustic style that I think would look very similar to what we did here with this dresser. Let me know in the comments what you think. The next project we're working on is going to be completely repurposing this old broken cabinet. It was missing a door, missing another piece of glass, and it just had no shelves or anything in it. Like, it had no purpose, and it was being thrown out on the curb for trash day. So I decided to give it a completely new purpose. So we're going to turn this into an entryway organizer or a hall tree. And I think you're really going to like this flip. It is definitely a wild one, but also super cool. Well, what do you think of how this turned out? What a great repurpose. I love a good trash to treasure makeover, and this is one of my favorites. This next dresser or armoire makeover we're going to do was crazy. It was wild on its own because this dresser was made out of foam. Most of it was foam and not real wood. I decided to use some leftover paint colors to create a very light blue color. The person that I was making this for was another young adult aging out of foster care, and she liked cottage decor and she liked the color light blue. So I used a very pale pink that I had and added in some of this teal blue color until I got a really light blue color that I think would look cottagey enough. and I painted the entire dresser in this light blue color, including the handles. And the reason why was because when I tried to take the handles off, it was just breaking that foam, and I had to make some repairs on the ones that I had done. So I decided to keep it all like that, and to add some dimension, I added in white wax, and then I gilded the edges of the drawers to add just a little more whimsy, and added these cute little stickers on there just to make it look more cottagey for her. This was definitely a project I had to do really quickly, but super cool, and I think that it turned out cute considering that we were working with what we got here, but a little bit wild on the inside as well. The next pieces that we're going to show you are these little side tables. We picked them up off of Facebook Marketplace, and Manny did this entire flip on his own. I believe this was at like the end of my pregnancy with my youngest, and he was helping me out with a lot of the projects at this time. We went with this moss green color, and then he installed some faux marble tile into the top since it was missing the glass, and it turns out super cool. You're gonna really like this wild makeover. Look at how cute these are now. They turned out so great. The next project we're working on is such a funky one. It was like a chunky dresser armoire combination piece of furniture. Never seen anything really like this before. And I decided that I wanted to go with a kind of chinoiserie Grand Millennial look on this. Of course, this was definitely a style I was really into a few years ago. I still love it, but I wanted to do a really fun and vibrant blue and white design on here like you would see on a ginger jar. I'm going to add this kind of modern lattice work fabric on here. Actually, Manny is doing this, but we put this fabric onto the sides, and then I add extra detail on there by adding on some beautiful nail head trim just to finish it off, and I think that it looks gorgeous. But you're gonna have to see it for yourself and decide if this is beautiful or just too wild, and I can't wait to hear what you think in the comments. Always love a classic blue and white design. The next thing that I want to show you was super wild to begin with. Somebody had tried to make a crackled finish using purple underneath and white on top and did their best, but it didn't turn out so great. So I got it for a steal of a deal on Facebook Marketplace, and we're actually going to be flipping this piece for my daughter and custom making it for what she wanted. She wanted it to be purple, and she wanted to have lots of sparkle. So you're going to see a truly wild transformation here. it is, all finished. I apologize for the terrible lighting. We had a gigantic sunlight or skylight in this room, and so it was impossible to get good videos. It always had these shadows like this. But this turned out so great, and she loved this dresser. The next piece I want to show you is another dresser, but it looked like we dragged this thing out of a swamp. It was just ugly. I would say probably one of the ugliest things I've ever gotten to date. What do you think? But we're going to do something really crazy on this one, and something I have never done before and have not done since. So we're going to do a special finish on this using mica powder to create a pearlescent finish. I wanted to do a piece for Halloween when I did this a couple years ago, I believe, and I wanted to do a Wizard of Oz Emerald City theme. And I think that's kind of neat because Wicked has been really popular this year, and so this is kind of a little bit like a Wicked theme in a way, although that was not what my intention was when I first did this. But I did a really cool effect where you add mica powder into the clear coat and spray it over black primer, and it creates a beautiful pearlescent vibrant finish, which is absolutely wild if you've never seen it before. In fact, this is actually used to paint cars. And I grew up with a father who did custom car painting, and so it's something that I'm super used to seeing and being around, but you're probably like, what? I didn't even know this was possible. So let's see what you think of how this turned out. I still think this is just so cool. I think it turned out really neat and just unique. I don't know if I'd want it in my house, but I do think that it is really awesome. The next flip we're going to do is absolutely wild. I would say just as wild as the last one you just saw. But I flipped these for a furniture flipping competition, and I can't even remember what the theme was, but it was something about like using texture and color or something like that. And so I'm going to do something absolutely crazy on this. Again, I'm going to be using fabric. I guess I'm kind of known for that now. I didn't realize just how much I have used fabric on furniture flipping before, and I don't really ever see anybody else do that. So I guess that's just a me thing. I don't know. Or maybe I just haven't seen enough people doing it. But we're going to turn this desk into 2 nightstands, and then I am going to create a custom finish on the outside of it that will make this completely unrecognizable with what we started with. So you're really going to want to see this transformation for yourself. So I had this idea come to mind where I wanted to use half round molding to like go over under with some purple velvet fabric. I think velvet is just so cool and like decadent and fancy, and I thought this was just something really unique, and it gave a modern twist to something classic like velvet, and I loved adding that wood tone in there as well. I had these cool handles from another project, and I had just had them waiting forever to be used on the perfect project, and I thought this would be the perfect one to just go all out extreme with these huge and kind of gaudy handles to go with the gaudiness of the velvet on the sides. And I say gaudy in a good way, if there is a way of saying it in a good way, but I just feel like it was just so cool, and I love how it just went full on like royal purple, your majesty, you know. It was just such a unique design. What do you think of how this one turned out? This beautiful secretary desk is definitely an antique, and it had a broken piece on that top molding there that needed to be repaired. And I also was going to be using this piece for the same furniture flipping competition. They had two categories. The first one was like texture and color, and then the other one was just like a pop of color or something like that. I can't remember. But this was my pop of color piece that I submitted for that competition. Again, I didn't win this competition, so obviously I didn't do super amazing compared to all the other artists that submitted theirs, but I had this idea that I wanted to create a pop of color on the inside of the antique because I loved the outside, and I didn't want to get rid of that amazing character and patina and all of that makes it awesome. So instead I thought making a pop of color on the inside of an antique piece is a great way to customize it and make it special for people individually. So if you have an antique that you want to update in some kind of way or customize in some kind of way that makes it more you, this is the perfect way to do that. So I picked a really beautiful electric blue color and painted the entire inside of the piece with that electric blue as well as a little hint of gold. So just wait and see how I made this even more special with this pop of blue. And I also do a custom leather table, like desktop on there with a nail head trim, and I want to show you exactly how to do that. Super beginner friendly and a really unique way to customize an antique piece. So you're really going to want to see how this ends. So I can't wait to hear what you think of this, especially that leather nail head trim section on the desktop. I thought that was just so cool, but obviously I'm biased. So what do you think of adding a pop of color on the inside of an antique and leaving the outside original? I thought it was pretty awesome. The next thing we're going to work on is a cute little piano bench that was broken. It was missing the storage section on the inside. So we're going to just repurpose everything we have on here and add lots of wild color choices and fabrics on here to make this a truly wild flip. So what did you think of all of the color choices that I picked out for this bench? Is this way too crazy, or is it just wild enough to be cute? I love it. I can't help it. I love it. My next flip is the dirtiest flip I have ever done to this day. It was the absolute dirtiest thing I have ever fixed up. It was disgusting. I think covered in probably nicotine and just overall filth and grossness. Like, it literally looked like I was cleaning root beer off of this hutch. It was disgusting. But just wait and see how I turn this disgusting piece of furniture into an absolute beauty in a really unique celery green color. You're gonna love it. Gosh, I just love this color combination together of the celery green with the blue and white chinoiserie. I think it goes so well together and it looks just so cute and happy. And I really loved this hutch. It sold immediately in my resale shop to somebody who was going to store quilts in it and fabric for making quilts, which I thought would be super cute in this color. The next flip we're going to work on is this funky little boho style sofa table. It was kind of meh. I don't know, like it just didn't have pizzazz. So let's add some pizzazz to this piece today. Let's make it a little bit wild. This turned out so cute. I love how the stripes make it look like it has a table runner already on it, and I adore those handles. I've used those handles on a lot of different flips and even things that I keep in my own home, but I put it in my resale shop and it sold there, but it did take a really long time to sell and I did have to mark the price down. So I guess people didn't really like it. What do you think of it? The next flip is an antique dresser, I would say probably from the late 1800s to early 1900s. It had a bazillion layers of paint on it and it was in really rough shape. And I decided I wanted to modernize it with a bright color that was still classic and give it kind of a modern version of the original look. So stay tuned and see if I did a good job on this and let me know what you think of how I flipped it, if it's something that you would like or if you would have done it differently. Now that it's finished, it totally reminds me of something you would see in the beautiful beach home that's on that show, The Summer I Turned Pretty. If you haven't seen that yet, oh my gosh, there's a beautiful beach house in that show that I just think about constantly and wish I lived in. But this seems like it could be from that movie set or that TV show set. The next piece is something that definitely was controversial when I did it. So many people hated it. I loved it. I feel like it's one of those things where they say like only a mother could love it. And since I created it, I loved it. But I really want to know what you think of the color choices in this piece when it's all done. Let me know. Be honest in the comments. So what do you think? Do you think this like olive chartreuse color and the fabric and the navy blue go together? I like it a lot, but it didn't sell for a really long time and I had to mark it down to where it was just the cost of flipping it. So I think most people didn't like it. But the next thing that we're gonna flip is this really like kind of a weird height sofa table. It was like a little bit shorter than a sofa table should be, but too tall to be a bench. Very weird, funky piece. This flip I think was a fail, and I went with some wild colors on it, and I think it was a total fail in the end, and my vision did not come to life how I was picturing it. So just stay with me here and see if you agree with me that this was a total flop. In my head, I was trying to create this table that you could totally picture on the Great British Baking Show with all their cute pastel colored furnitures, but it just didn't translate that way. I think the stark white was probably the issue on the top, but I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't turn out how I thought it would. What do you think of it? I don't know what it is about these little stools that I love so much, but I could flip these little stools every day of my life and be so happy. And I love going super creative on these and crazy bright colors or crazy designs because it's just something small. It's like a little accent in your home that, is not, it doesn't have to stand out too much because it's small, but still is just something fun to look at. I had this fabric that my mom gave me and I thought it would be really fun to do a bright kind of like beachy theme on this makeover, so let me know what you think of it when I finish. I think these colors are just so much fun. But let's move on to another blue flip. Yes, I do a lot of blue. I love blue. But this blue is going to be a very gentlemanly blue color. This is a gentleman's dressing table or washstand where they would like put their cufflinks on and wash their face or shave or whatever. And I'm going to use a gentlemanly navy blue color to paint it and leave a couple little peekaboos of the original wood on here. And I really can't wait to see what you think. I thought this was a really cute flip. I think this flip looks completely different from what we started with. I love it. It's just a little bit wild and it would stand out in your home but not be too jarring, if you know what I mean. Let me know what you think of it. Would you do a color like this on a vintage or antique piece? It was definitely a risk. The next flip we're going to do is my last flip of the video, and it's definitely one of my most controversial flips I have done, only because of how I cleaned it. So I picked up this sofa from an alleyway. Somebody was throwing it away, and I knew of a young woman who was aging out of foster care who needed a couch, and she really loved light pink and black. Those were her colors that she wanted to do. And so I saw this couch. It was like a mauve pinkish color, and it was just dirty. There was no bugs, thank God. We checked everything, and it had that really cool wooden frame underneath. So we pressure washed it in our driveway and cleaned it really well so that it was like almost new again for her. Only do this if you live in a super dry desert climate. If you live somewhere with even a little bit of humidity, do not do that. So that's where the controversy was. Everybody was saying, oh my gosh, you're going to grow mold. But no, it was dry within a day and a half, completely dry, because we lived in the desert at this time. So Manny painted the base of it in a flat black, and then I went over and painted all of the nail head trim in another flat black paint. And I thought that really modernized it. It's funny because now this couch in its original form would be back in style again with all the cottagey and antique styles that are back in style. But for this young woman, this suited her style much more, and I definitely prefer making things to where the person who owns it's going to love it more than worry about what's in style. So this may not be your style. It's definitely a wild flip, and I love that we're ending with this one because it was such a fun makeover to do. So simple and easy to do, and yet such a cool and different look that it has. It looks cool now instead of like shabby chic. But what do you think? Did you enjoy today's video full of wild flips? If you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit subscribe down below so you can see more, and I'll see you next time. Bye!